So welcome back to Mario Toxic Race. Will be the next thing we're going to with no music on the overworld because of a slight glitch that tends to happen sometimes when you load stuff up. The what is that? Oh, that would be air or something that keeps us alive down here. I would assume air, but maybe water. I don't know, some sort of blue substance. This place is a toxic cave, so I would assume that water or some sort of antidote or potion of some sort would lead us to victory and not have us die in this terrible place. But anyway, to sort of conclude things from the previous two videos, which were about the high school days that I had said that I would get to eventually, and now I'm kind of stuck here in the way that I have to actually go through this and get the stupid thing. But sum things up, a lot of people in the comments had talked about their own terrible times in high school or college or middle school, and that was stupid, and how they dealt with it or how they hoped it would get better. And usually things get better. I just totally jumped into that. Usually things get better. You kind of have to go and attempt to make things better afterwards. I'm sure some people can turn it around during the time of high school. However, some people like myself, there was probably no way in hell that was going to be turned around aside from saving people's lives in some sort of fire. And even then, I don't think things would have turned out better for me, which sucks. And that was actually pretty good. Aside from some miracle where people would begin to like me in those years, there was really no way that was going to get turned around. So unfortunately, I'm sure there is a way to do it. I just don't know, and I hadn't the chance to actually go ahead and do it. But a lot of people had said, you know, they were explaining their own stuff. They were explaining how shitty it sounded and that they didn't have the same problems, but they could still, you know, say that it was a really shitty thing. And there were also some other people who were like, you know, I'm this size, I was football team guy, etc., and I wasn't a complete dirtbag. So I know there's a difference. Like I always try to say in videos, I don't judge people normally by size, color, or gender. What I usually try to go off of is personality, opinions, morals, stuff like that. Mostly personality, because if you appear to be a dickbag, then I'm probably going to think you're a dickbag. And just because you're a different race than me doesn't mean I'm judging you by your race. You just have a shitty personality, and I am very sorry that your personality sucks, in my opinion, but it's not because you are some sort of different race or gender or religion. It's none of that. If you're gonna act like, you know, a big dumbass, then I'm gonna think you're a big dumbass. A lot of times people don't like to admit their own problems, and will instead try and take an easy way out, rather than admit some fault by whatever personality defect or flaw they might have. But instead, they'll try to blame you because you are judging them because of, you know, different religion, different race, etc., etc. I don't understand, like, it seems over time in the comments, people have tried to get more politically correct as time goes on, to the point where I probably can't even say that guy is black without someone assuming it's the brave little toaster again. Apparently he was from Cave Story, I think. Oh, do those hurt me? They probably do. And they create a shit ton of slowdown. He shoots like bubbles. Great. I probably can't even say, you know, that guy's black, that guy's Mexican, without someone saying that it's racist. It might not be the most politically correct thing, because we try to go with Spanish or African American. That is Pokemon music, I'm pretty sure. Mount Moon. Something like that. Or just the regular cave. I don't remember. What is this? Tree Frenzy? Okay. It's kind of gotten to that point where, like, you can't even say that without someone getting upset. And I would really like to know who gets upset by it. Is it, like, a bunch of white people who don't want to offend people? Or is it really, you know, that race in question or, you know, whatever? I mean, I don't care if someone calls me a white guy. I'm a very pale white guy. Hi. Thank you for pointing out the obvious. Yes, I am white. Thank you for, you know, pointing that out to everyone. I understand. I don't really have an issue with that, but I digress from that. It kind of goes along with the whole thing of, like, you know, don't judge someone just because they might be a jock, because they might be a really nice guy, and that is true. I wouldn't say like, oh, he's, you know, captain football team, he's on the baseball team, he's in wrestling, whatever, he's got to be a douche. I would try to get to know that person first. And if they end up being a douche, in my opinion, well, then they end up being a douche, in my opinion, because of their personality and not what I assume. And here is a saw. So that was part of it. That is going to kill me, and that's... Oh, cool, I don't die from that. It's not an auto death. I'm gonna have... this sucks. Come on. Yeah, whatever. That was a fail. So there's that. I just wanted to get that out of the way. A lot of other people were kind of agreeing how shitty of a time that was, and etc., etc. How the am I just supposed to like use these ghosts constantly? Oh god. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. There we go. Okay. What? How did I fall? Okay, we need to figure this out. We need to... Okay, there we go. Oh god. Oh, what? Oh! I didn't even know you could fucking do that. I didn't know you could do that. Look at that. That's fucking crazy. Alright, whatever. I just need to get back here. Wow, I'm just like falling through the level now. This doesn't work sometimes as well as I would have hoped, but okay. Now that I know I can do that, and we're probably at the end anyway, it doesn't even matter. So, yeah, there's the little sob story. I'm gonna do the long jump of the high school era. There was some other stuff I wanted to talk about, but mostly it was like, you know, don't judge people. Fucking falling through that. That kind of blows. It's like, don't judge people. A couple people had said, like, you know, oh, these people probably grew up since then. They're probably different. Well, unfortunately, that might be true. I've seen some of these people since high school, and they seem probably just as bad, if not worse, than they were prior or during high school. I've ran into a couple of these people, and they didn't seem any different. And that was within the past year or so. There was a bar I'd gone to back home, and there were two of them, not people that I had major problems with, but people who were still part of that group that had attacked me. And they hadn't really done anything, but they were across the bar, and they were just sort of staring at me. Really oddly. It was a really uncomfortable thing. I'm like, cool, you know, fucking 4 years after I graduate, 4 or 5 years after I graduate, they're still giving me looks. Like, okay. I mean, maybe some of them have grown up, and I just totally dipped into that, but it's hard to say who has, who hasn't by this point. The couple people that I had seemingly run into, and there were more other than just those two at that bar, which that was a really weird feeling. I really couldn't have waited to have gotten out of there. There was a couple different places where I'd run into people like that who had given me a really shitty time, especially at Target. Some of them would come into Target and just, you know, talk to me as like, even if they didn't mean to be demeaning, it still felt demeaning. So even though people had said, like, oh, yeah, they might have grown up since then, I mean, you can't really be mad at them forever. Unfortunately, like I had said, things still do kind of hurt after a while. There are still issues and stuff, even though you've gotten past that. You know, I'm not going to sit and cry about how shitty high school was my whole life, other than, you know, the past two videos. But people had wanted me to talk about it. I'm not going to sit around and cry about it my whole life and talk about, you know, how shitty of a time I had and how that fucked things over for me. Yeah, it sucked ass, but it was definitely a while ago. But at the same time, it's hard to forget what had happened. So even though this is kind of not a good example because these two things are a little bit different, and by a little bit I mean a lot. Like, if someone has someone in their family murdered, I don't even know how I got hit by that. If someone has someone in their family murdered, they may or may not forgive the killer, but at the end of the day, their loved one is still not with them anymore, if that makes any sense. Now, of course, this is a much smaller scale. High school was just really shitty for me. No one's dead. I didn't die. No one in my family died. So it's not quite the same thing, but it's somewhat comparable to that situation. Maybe not the grief part and someone not being there anymore, but the part that it sort of lingers. Even if you forgive someone, it's still sort of going to stick with you. And there are personality defects that I have now that I already know about, that people... I mean, I come off as really mean to some people. I don't mean it. It's just sort of me being kind of bitter, and I never really grew emotionally like I should have while I was in that time period. So it really sucks. A lot of times people will think that I'm like being mean to someone when I really don't mean to be mean. Like the Left 4 Dead stuff. Like, I had to start asking people in the lobbies, like, if I yell at you in a video, that doesn't mean I really hate you. That just means it's the heat of the moment. It's a game. I don't really want you to go fucking jump off of a cliff, but I am mad that you killed me as a jockey. So, I mean, you just can't be mad at that. Because some people were getting mad, like, oh, he's just yelling at people. He doesn't care about his subs. You know, he says fuck them, and, you know, this is his job. He's here because of us. Like, I know a lot of people will understand the difference, but there are, like, replying in comments, to comments. A lot of times people will think I'm just being a jackass, and I don't mean to be, but it's sort of like an oversight by my own self. It's kind of hard to explain, but things didn't exactly progress the way they probably should have during that very, very sensitive part of the life, I would say, when it comes to, like, developing into someone who's going to be older and an adult. Like, I don't find myself as immature, but unfortunately there were things that